that anyway, but thank you for the reminder. Never hesitate to remind me, but I didn't forget. I did remember. Okay, no, this is not the one I wanted to do. Don't look at that. Don't look. Don't look. Oh, yes, this is the one I want to do. Okay, so let me start the polls as well. Poll questions, lunch. So I will be very honest. Today's poll questions, or this week's poll questions, are going to be harder than last week's. That's not surprising, right? That should happen. As we progress, the questions will become more difficult. These ones are definitely a little bit trickier, though. Okay, everyone, I'm going to call it in about 30 seconds here.
The answers are not, they're very flat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm closing her up. And I think everyone's in. All right, so we're pretty uniform, right? Looks like some people thought D, and then we're really split on A, B, and C. Okay, so try and remember which number you chose, which of A, B, or C you chose. We see B has a little bit of a lead, but A and B are basically the same. They're only one off from each other, right? Okay, so let's look at this. So there is a couple of ways of solving this problem, which is evidenced by the fact that in many of these multiple choices, we gave you several answers that evaluated to the same thing. And that's going to be a common thing anytime we do these sorts of problems. Okay, there's almost always more than one way of doing them. So, all right, let's see. What do we have? So we have the letters Ontario. So O-N-T-A-R-I-O. Okay, so these are the consonants, right? So the consonants are N, T, and R. And we're told, that these must be in alphabetical order. Okay, so N, R, and T, so they must appear in this order. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I like to do this. Now this way is a little bit clever, but it's the fastest way to get to the answer. And then we'll do the non-clever way, which is a little bit longer, just a little titch longer, but still gets you the right answer. Okay, so basically the fact that they must appear in the same order, or they must appear in a fixed order, means that their order effectively does not matter. In fact, their letters don't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to label each of these things C for consonant. Okay, so I'm just going to call these things C for consonant. And now the question is, how can I rearrange? How many ways can I arrange these letters? Right? And so what's the answer? If it was this question, Ocaccio or whatever, if I just asked you to rearrange these 7 letters, how many ways could you do it? There are blank ways of arranging these letters. Right, exactly. 7 factorial over 3 factorial, 2 factorial, right? Okay, now let's see why. So there's 7 factorial ways of arranging all of the letters, but then we have repetitions, right? So we have 3 C's and 2 O's. So we have to divide by those in order to get the total number that matter, right? And again, yeah, so I have a direct message that says, I don't understand what you mean by when you said order doesn't matter. And totally, I expected that. So let's come back now and let's convince ourselves. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone's okay with 7 factorial over 3 factorial, 2 factorial. Let's take care of that first. And then we'll talk about why did you replace them by C's? Like, why were you allowed to do that? Okay. Yeah, exactly. We divide because it's repeated. Exactly. Right. So when we have repeated things show up and we're trying to trying to do our permutations from that, we have to divide by the number of repetitions for each number. So here we had 3 C's. That's why we divide by 3 factorial. And then we had 2 O's. That's why we divide by 2 factorial. And then if you want, there's 1 A, so you could divide by 1 factorial. There's 1 I, so you can divide by 1 factorial. But those certainly don't do anything, right? So we just kind of leave those out. Now, okay, perfect. So now the reason why I just called them all C is because it does, let's think of an arrangement. Let's say I take C, 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 O-O-I-A. Okay, once I've chosen where those three consonants go, they like it has to be NRT, right? It has to be in that order. So it doesn't matter where they go. This is the arrangement C-C-C-O-O-I-A, right? And order doesn't matter. If I move those C's around, it doesn't like it has to show up as NRT. Does that make sense? If I had put like O-O-C-C-I-C-A, then this would have come up N-R-I-T-A. Because once I figured out where the C's are, their order is fixed. They have to be N, R, and T in that order, right? So I just need to figure out where I'm going to put those three consonants. And those three consonants, I can treat them as being exactly the same because their order matters, or their order is fixed ahead of time. Does that make sense? Do people see that? Okay. So that's how you would do it that way. Now that way is that is the trickier way. But how do you determine that their order is fixed? Okay, so their order is fixed because in the question, it tells you their order is fixed, right? If we go back, and I'm just going to quickly go to the question again. So it says that the consonants must be in alphabetical order, right? So because the consonants must be in alphabetical order, it means the order of the consonants is fixed, right? That's what that means. So they have to appear in the order N, then R, and then T. Wherever you put them in, the first consonant must be N, the next one is R, and the last one is T. Now, so that's the clever way of doing this problem. And if you don't see that, because you might be like, on a test, would I have gotten that? Maybe, maybe not. So there's another way which uses combinatorics, okay? And basically, here, let's think about it this way. So alternatively, we have the following. So we've got 7 boxes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? Now, the tricky thing here is, you know, the letters that aren't consonants are allowed to go wherever they want, right? We don't care where they go. So the tricky thing here is we need to figure out where the consonants go. So my question to you is, if I have these 7 boxes, how many ways can I put the consonants in these 7 boxes? And does order matter? Right? How many ways can I determine where the consonant should go? Maybe 7, 4. I think it's bigger than that. 7 times 4 divided by 4. Okay. Ariana, yes, that might still be a little too high. Is he giving you hand signals? I can't see him. His video is not currently in my thing. Okay.
Don't worry about me. I'm just doing my thing.
Sanam, close. Okay, everyone. So there are 7. I don't know if you've watched, it's possible you haven't watched the combinatorics videos yet, but if you do, so if you haven't, this explanation isn't going to make sense. Exactly. It's 7, choose 3. Of picking where the consonants go. Okay. So 7, choose 3. Why does order not matter? Right, Agam. So this is a great question. So the order matters in the sense that they have to appear in the order NRT, but order does not matter for your purposes because you cannot pick the order, right? You don't get to say, oh, this is an N, this is an R, this is a T, and then if I switch the T and the R around, that's a different combination. You don't get to do that. The only thing, exactly, they have to be in alphabetical order. So the only thing you can do is tell me where the consonants go, right? So in this case, I'm going to say, oh, the consonants go in spot 2, what is this, 5 and 7. And then once you've told me where the consonants go, they have to be in that order, N, R, and T, right? So the order matters to the question, but they don't matter to you, right? Because once you've determined where the consonants go, their order is fixed. You don't get to choose, you don't get to pick the order, right? So it matters in the, like, where you put them, but you don't get to pick the order. And because you don't get to pick the order, it means the order does not matter to you. You just determine where they go. And once you've determined where they go, Boom. There's only one way of doing it. So the number of ways is 7, choose 4. Yes, that's true. But because there is also a repeated, but we have to be a little bit more careful. But yes, if we just said what are the number of places we can determine where the vowels go, it would be 7, choose 4. That's why 7, choose 4 and 7, choose 3 are the same number, right? Because once you figure out where the 3 consonants go, the rest have to be vowels. And once you figured out where the 4 vowels go, the rest have to be consonants, right? Right, exactly. Yeah, okay. So do people understand that? So you're just picking which 3 spots do the consonants go in. And you can be like, oh, that's 2, 5, and 7, right? And order doesn't matter because if I chose them in a different order, let's say I chose 7, 2, 5, that's still these 3 spots. And then the letters still have to show up in that order, right? Like all the ways I could have chosen 2, 5, and 7, the order doesn't matter because the consonant in the second slot has to be an N. The consonant in the fifth slot, I guess this is 2, 5, and 6. The consonant in the 5th spot has to be the R, and the consonant in the 6th spot has to be the T. Does that make sense? Is everyone okay there? So you're just determining, so order does not matter, but they must be in alphabetical order. Yes, or put it this way. Once you've determined where the consonants go, how many orders can you arrange them in? Well, there's only one because they have to be in alphabetical order, right? Does that make sense? You can choose where the consonants go. And then if you are allowed to then say, now I can put them in different orders, then you would multiply by 3 factorial, right? So if order didn't matter, you would do 7, choose 3 times 3 factorial, which is actually the same thing as 7, pick 3. Right? It doesn't have to be 625. I'm just saying these are all the same. 625, 562, 256, right? Like 265. These are the positions where I'm going to put the consonants, but it doesn't matter. Those are all the same because once I've said which spots the consonants go in, they have to be in the order N, R, and then T. Does that make sense? Is everyone okay? Okay, so that's where the consonants go. And then there are what do I want? So then I have these spots remaining. And I have what? How many O's are there? There's 2 O's, an I, and an A. So now I have 4 slots and I want to figure out how to put these 4 numbers in those 4 slots. There are 4 factorial over 2 factorial ways of doing that. Right? So there's just one option, which is 2, 5, 6, and the others are the same. Right, Curdy? Exactly. When thinking of the consonant has to be in alphabetical order, I'm thinking of it as then order matters alphabet. Right. Yeah, it can be confusing, everyone, because when we say it has to be in a particular order, we're saying that the order doesn't matter. The order matters for the question, but it doesn't matter for you. Right? So it's from the perspective of who does order matter to, right? Or let's say, maybe a better way of saying then does order matter is to say, does changing the order change the answer, right? Does changing the order change the answer? And in this case, no, because once you've determined where the consonants go, you're not allowed to change the order of the consonants that appear, right? They have to appear in that order. So you don't get any additional choices after that. Why is it 4 factorial over 2 factorial? Okay, so it's because there's 2 O's, right? So there's 4 factorials because there's 4 vowels, exactly. There's 4 vowels. And so we have 4 factorial ways of arranging those vowels, but O appears twice. Exactly, A. Now I don't even need to be here, but because, yeah, exactly. Yeah, as Ain says, there are 2 O's. And so we have to divide by that repetition in order to figure out all the ways that we can arrange the vowels, right? So once I've figured out where the consonants go, I need to figure out how to arrange the vowels. And there's 4 factorial over 2 factorial ways to do that. So alternatively, we get 7, choose 3 times 4 factorial over 2 factorial. And that is the same as what we had before, 7 factorial over 3 factorial, 2 factorial. These are the same number. Okay, so you could have done it either way and you would get the same answer both ways. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right. I'm going to do another one. We're going to do this one quicker because it's very related, and I want to get to some different questions. Okay, so I'm going to put a hard limit on how long you have to do this one. Okay, 30 seconds. Connie, the answer could definitely be very big, right? So that's okay. I also got a very big answer. Okay, I'm gonna stop this, share, very good. Okay, so we've still got some stuff to work out, but yes, the answer is B, okay? And again, this is this weird thing of saying like, does the order matter or not, right? And in X, okay, let's read X. X is the number of ways to pick 7 textbooks and arrange them in a row. Here, the order matters, right? Because if you put the textbooks on your bookshelf in a different order, that is a different answer. Does everyone agree? So I choose 7 books, right? But once I've chosen the 7 books, I can rearrange them, and those are different configurations, right? Exactly. So let's figure this out. So suppose that I give you 12 books and I say pick 7 of them, right? So you just like pick the first 7 books that like, you know, strike your fancy. Now you get to arrange them on the shelf, right? And each different way that you arrange them is a different solution, right? You can arrange those books however you like. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can arrange them, and the order of them all matter. For Y, once you pick the 7 books, you're done. There's only one way to put them on the shelf, right? Does everyone agree? Once you pick the 7 books, there's nothing else that you can do. There's no other, you're not allowed to mix the books up because they have to appear in alphabetical order. Is that okay? Okay, if you want, let's do a quick example. Let's suppose that there are 3 books. Let's do an easier example. 3 books, A, B, and C, right? And you're going to pick 2 of them. Choose 2 of them. Okay, so for, right, one Ali, the P means that order matters and the C means it doesn't. But if you want, text Aziz, and he might be able to go into it a little bit more. Okay, so for X, let's say I choose A and B. Okay, that's different than BA. Does everyone agree? Okay, cool. So for X, it says pick 2 of the books, but you can arrange them on the shelf however you want. So I pick the books A and B, and then I say, these are different arrangements of my bookshelf, right? These are different arrangements. So the order matters to me, right? Exactly. This is showing the order matters. But for Y, once I choose A, B, they have to be in this order. There's nothing else I can choose, right? Same thing. Let's suppose I chose A and C. These are different arrangements. But if I choose those for Y, they have to be in alphabetical order. So there's only one choice. If I chose B and C, these are different arrangements, but if I put them on the bookshelf, they must occur in this order, right? Exactly. So since the order is, you are told the order for Y, you don't get to pick it, which means the order does not matter for you, right? The order matters to the books, but it doesn't matter to you because you don't get to change it around. So how many options would there be for Y? There's only 3, right? So there would be 3 choose 2 ways, right? And that's equal to 3. Yeah, exactly. And then for X, right, we can see here that there are 3 pick 2 equals 6 ways. Does everyone see that? So if you actually work out these numbers, in this case where you have a fewer number of books, you can see that they're different, right? Even though Y said they had to be in alphabetical order, that actually means that order doesn't matter to you, right? Because you don't get to pick the order that they come in. There's one and only one order that can appear. Does that make sense? Does everyone? And if if you're still kind of struggling with this, go to your bookshelf at some point and grab 3 books off the shelf and put them in alphabetical order and say, well, how many ways can I do this, right? Yeah, and this is not a bad technique when you're trying to figure out if order matters or not. Try a similar problem with fewer numbers and see if you can reason through, does order matter or not? This is a perfectly valid problem-solving technique. I do it all the time, right? If you can't figure out something because the numbers are too big, like 12 and 7, reduce it to a simpler case and see if you can make heads or tails of it when you can actually just write it out and be like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here, and then figure out how to generalize that to bigger numbers, right? Right, and exactly, yeah, as Aziz says, bookshelf row reduce. Okay, so hopefully that made a little bit sense. Hopefully that clears it up for you. We chose these questions in particular because we know that it screws up students, because you're saying in your head, wait a second, if I'm told that they have to be in alphabetical order, that means that the order matters, right? And then you kind of make this mistake in your head where you think that order matters because you're told the order. But if you're told the order, it means that order actually doesn't matter. It's a little bit confusing, and it's going to take a little bit to think about, to really make sure you get over it. But it's worthwhile, okay? It's worth spending some time to think about it. Okay, I really like this one. Let's try this one. Okay, and just for clarity, when we say contain the word meme, we mean that meme has to show up in that order beside each other, right? It has to be M-E-M-E all together as a single unit in your word. So it could start the word, it could end the word, it could show up in the middle, it doesn't matter. Those 4 letters have to appear in that order somewhere in the word. Yes, Brandon, listen, I understand, I'm an old man, right? I get that. But I would like to, I know, but I would like to point out that memes are my generation, not yours, right? You were born, you adopted memes. I was born into the memes. I
don't think they're convinced, Tyler. I'm not gonna lie.
I was around with pre-memes. You know what I mean? Like memes before they were really memes. Like there were things that existed before memes, and I was around before that. So I was part of that culture. Oh yeah, geez. I wonder if I can even remember some of them. No, it's been too old if I saw it. But yeah, man, like 4chan used to be a thing back in the day, and that's where it all started, right? It was all in 4chan. And if you don't know what 4chan is, forget I said it. Don't ever go there.
I was going to say, I don't think many of them would know what 4chan is. To be
Yeah,
honest
if you don't know what 4chan is, that's totally okay. Yeah. No, I really did not like Vines. I wasn't part of it. 4chan is absolutely terrible. I have seen some things on 4chan that I just cannot erase from my brain. Don't go. It's just not worth it. It's not a good place to be. I mean, ironically, there are some boards on 4chan that are like really quite okay. But like, what is it? B is the worst board in the world, right? Don't go to B. Yes. Yeah. So Brandon, they have to occur exactly beside each other and in that order. They were called memes before me. I'm not certain what you're saying there, Rafi, but it's telling you it needs to be in the order meme, then order doesn't matter. Maybe you have to sort that out. There's a great thing, Doug, where like a person, what did they do? So they were like on their dad's, this is a famous one. They're on their dad's computer or whatever. And somehow the 4chan people convinced him to rub a magnet on the hard drive. And he's like, oh my God, I broke the computer. And what do I do? And so they just kept giving him advice to like make things progressively worse. And he just kept following it. So it's one of the great 4chan stories of all time of how they just, destroyed this kid's life because he kept following their advice. I mean, you know what? Some people get lucky. I mean, it's right. Yeah, there's definitely some like really shady stuff that's happened on 4chan too. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds because I do want to hit another one or two of these questions. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. Well, that's good, I think, right? It's just like time is going because, you're working on problems, we're having a nice conversation. Hopefully you're learning something. I think ultimately that is my goal, right? But okay. What was that?
I was going to say, I looked at this question very briefly, but I don't think I see the answer that I have in my head as of right now.
Right, see. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so everyone try and mentally record which answer you chose. And because a lot of them look very similar, right? Okay, so the trick to doing this one, so we have COMMERCE. Okay, and we're told that MEME has to appear exactly like this, right? It's not allowed to appear backwards. It's not allowed to be MMEE. It has to appear exactly like this, right? And hopefully everyone remembers I said that right at the beginning of the question, right? It has to appear like this. So what does that do? So that gets rid of these letters. So effectively what we're asking now is we're going to treat this as one letter, right? because you're not allowed to move the stuff inside of it around. So we're going to treat it as one letter. So that means now we have the letter C. So now we have C, comma O, comma R, comma C, comma M-E-M-E. Right? And now, if these are the 5 letters that you have, how many arrangements of them are there? Right? You're pretending that meme is its own letter. So how many arrangements are there now? Exactly. Yeah, 5 factorial over 2 factorial. Right? Because there's 5 letters, so there's 5 factorial ways, but we have a double repetition in C over 2 factorial. That's it. That was answer. Which answer was that? That was C.
The reason I was off is because I just did not realize that there were 2 C's in commerce.
Right.
I thought there were 4 unique constants. I was like, it should be 5 factorial.
Nice.
I realized there's 2 C's.
Yeah. What, Curdy, what about the repetition in meme? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Right, because it doesn't matter that there is repetition within meme. Exactly, meme is it's a single word, right? It's a single entity. You're not allowed to move anything around within it. It just exists in and of its own. So you can almost be like, this is going to be X, right? We're going to call it X instead. So if I say, CXORC, then I'm going to replace this with meme ORC, right? If I do CRCXO, then I would replace meme in there, right? So if you think about it, if you replace meme with like the letter X and then do the problem and then just replace X with meme, that's the same thing. So we're just really treating it as its own letter. If meme did not need to be in that order, well, then it could be anything, right? So it depends, Christian. Do you just say like, just how many arrangements of the word commerce are there? Or does M-E-M-E have to be together, but they don't have to be in that order? Are you saying they still have to be together? Oh, okay. This is a great question. Actually, this is phenomenal, everyone. And I really want to, again, emphasize that what Christian is doing here is exactly what you should all be doing, whether or not I'm here, which is saying, how do I, again, make a twist on this question and can I still answer it? So let's see if we can think about this. So let's say these 4 letters, they have to be together. Okay, so maybe let me rewrite it out. So we've got commerce, C-O-M-M-E-R-C-E. M-E-M-E, these have to be together, but not in this order. Okay, so what you're going to do is exactly the same thing above. What you're going to do is I'm just going to treat this as the letter X, and I'm going to figure out where it goes, right? So I've got C-O-R-C, and then X, right? And again, X is just determining where it goes. So this is going to give me 5 factorial over 2 factorial positions for where the X, or for all the arrangements of this, right? It's the same answer. Now what we're going to do is say, well, how many different ways? So once I've determined where the X goes, how many ways can I arrange the letters in meme? So now just look at this. How many unique arrangements? Ooh, not 4 factorial divided by 4 factorial, and not 4 pick 4 either, because that would be 1. Right, 4 factorial over close. Okay, everyone, you're overthinking about it. So the numerator, I think we all agree, is 4 factorial, right? Because there's 4 numbers. How many? There you are, Ariana, thank you. There are 2 repetitions of M, and there are 2 repetitions of E. Right? Well, it depends on what you mean by combine it. So, I mean, we are multiplying them together, right? Like this is a multiplication sign. But once I've figured out how many places there are to put the X, then I multiply by the number of ways that I can arrange the letters in the X, and I'm done, right? Right, exactly. 2 factorial times 2 factorial does not equal 4 factorial, right? Right, because it's 2 times 2 is what 2 factorial times 2 factorial is. So that's 4, but 4 factorial is what? 24. So, right, it's 4 factorial is a much bigger number. Yeah. Okay. And by the same thing, I think what I could have done is, yeah, whatever. This works. There is another way of doing it, but it doesn't make it any more clear. It's basically exactly this way. Okay, so Christian, does that make sense? Like, it was a great question, actually. Like, really, thanks for asking that. Actually, I'm gonna write that down so we can maybe add it to the poll questions. So what if the letters don't have to be in that order? Maybe we'll add it as a little bonus question to that. But yeah, that was a great question. Okay. Does everyone understand too how we adapted that and we're able to answer Christian's question based off of that? Cool. That makes me happy. All right, let's do another one. Let's do this one. This is probably our last one for the day. I don't imagine we'll be able to do another one after this, but let's see. Yeah, 6-sided dice. Yeah. Oh, and on that note, don't know how well this is going to show up. I can't really move my camera. Right, so this is a D6, right? It's your standard dice. I think everyone's probably seen and played with these, right? A D4, right? Looks like a pyramid. It might be a little hard to see. I don't think it's in focus, right? D4, it's a little pyramid. You guys seen these things before? Right, D20, 20-sided dice. What is this? D8, it's a pyramid on top of a pyramid, right? Only seen a D6? No, you don't have a, I'm not a player, Jack. It's a close though. If I'm not a player, what must I be? Exactly.
The DM.
I am the DM. I mean, yeah, my players are currently hanging out in Sigil. And I don't know if any of you would know Sigil, but the City of Doors and the Concordant opposition. Anyway, it's a whole complicated thing.
I have no idea what you just said there, but I'll agree with you.
Yeah, they're basically plane hopping, right? So they were once in the prime material plane, but they're currently in Sigil. And Sigil is the City of Doors, so there's just portals everywhere. It's generally a really scummy place as well. It's a very weird place. And they're hunting down something called the Remnants of the Dawn War, and that's currently what they're working on. No, it's fine, Brandon. I mean, obviously part of that is going to depend as well on like who your dungeon master is, the world that they've set up. Some people really like it, some people don't. Let me say this. One of my best players right now had tried it when he was in an undergrad, right? So he tried it when he was an undergrad and he hated it. But for whatever reason, he decided to come and play a game with us. And now he loves it. Like he's probably one of my most active players. Even though he's not like a really strong role player, like he really gets into it and is quite a strong player. So it is possible, just it could be an issue with the DM or the setup or whatever the case could be, right? And different DMs have different styles and preferences. So all of these things can be a factor, but it's just not for some people as well, right? Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes you just don't mesh with a group, right? It is the way it is. And sometimes maybe you don't like D&D. Maybe you'd like something more like GURPS or something more Gumshoe, Call of Cthulhu, like any of these things, right? Those are all options as well. Let me call this in about 30 seconds though. Just, I'll talk about D&D with you all day, but let me get this question 2 out of the way. Yeah, and I mean, perhaps unsurprisingly, a big number of us in the math department play, right? So D&D, a large number of us juggle, a large number of us, what is the other like quintessentially math thing that we all do? We all play board games. We play a lot of board games. There's got to be some quintessentially other math things. But yes, I don't know if you knew, juggling is very much a math thing, right? Lots of mathematicians juggle. In fact, some of the world record jugglers are mathematicians, like hardcore mathematicians.
I can see that.
Yeah. Alan Knutson. Yeah, not really. I'm a very passive investor, Jack. What board games? That's the important question. Yeah. I'll talk about that in a second. Let me share the results here.
I'm probably gonna head out here just to start my tutorial.
Yeah, absolutely. See you later, Aziz.
See everyone.
Okay, so we've got a red D6 and we've got a blue D6. That just helps us to be able to separate them, right? This means I can tell the difference between which die is which, right? It's not like I just have 2 dice and I throw them and then I can't tell them apart. One is red, one is blue, so I know that they're different, right? So what we're gonna do, what is the question asking? So it says, how many outcomes have one die showing a larger value than the other? And what we're just basically gonna do is we're gonna break this into cases, okay? So what we're gonna do, let's let this be the red die, and then let's let this be the blue die. And basically what I just wanna do is say, actually, let me maybe write above this. So let's look at when the blue die is bigger than the red die. Okay, so if the red die is 1, how many blue die could be bigger than it? Strictly bigger, right? Not bigger than or equal to. Exactly, there's 5 numbers, right? So it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 6. There are 5 options. Same thing, if red is 2, how many options are there? 4, right? You're starting to see the pattern. If it's 3, then 3. If this is 2, 4, why am I going backwards? Then there's 2. If this is 5, there's 1. If there's 6, there's 0. Does everyone agree? Okay, so this is the total number of ways. There are 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 ways the blue is bigger than red. Okay? Now, is this the final answer? No. Why? What do I still need to do? Exactly, because then we could go the other way, right? We could say red being bigger than blue, but I don't need to count them all out. Instead, what can I say? Exactly, just multiply it by 2 because it's the exact same, right? If I take my chart here and like cross out red and put blue, and then cross out blue and put red, you get exactly the same thing. Right? So the total number of ways is just 2 times that number. Right? And you're done. So that was B, right? That option was B here, right? 2 times that, which actually was the third least picked, right? So the most picked was A, followed by D, followed by then B. So it looks like those of you who chose D, you were close, but you multiplied them instead of adding them, right? But in this case, you actually did want to add them. For A, why did blue start with 0? Depends. Hold on, let's look at 0. So it doesn't start with 0. What I'm doing here is I'm counting the number of ways that blue could be bigger than this number. So I say, right, okay. So what I'm saying is if I rolled a 6 on the red, right? So this is the actual roll. And then this is the number of ways that blue could be bigger, right? You can see my table here is not perfect. But if I roll a red 6, there are no blues which can be bigger than 6, right? 6 is the biggest number on a 6-sided dice. So if the red dice shows a 6, there's no blues that can be bigger, right? But if the red dice shows a 3, then 4, 5, and 6 are both bigger, right? If it shows a 4, 5 and 6 are bigger. If it shows a 5, 6 is bigger. Does that make sense? Right? So yeah, so I think it was just my table wasn't clear. And of course, if I were writing this up as a solution, I would say, let this be the number of ways. But what I'm doing there is I'm counting the number of ways, not the blue dice itself, right? I'm just counting how many ways blue could be bigger than red. Okay? So that's the idea there. Okay, everyone? So that's going to take care of today. Obviously, if you have to run, feel free to run. We're going to go into my office hours now. Now, even including Thursday, though, let me say the following. Even including Thursday, we're only going to probably do another 4 or 5 of these problems. That being said, this set of poll questions has 15, right? You'll be able to see that down in the bottom right-hand corner here. It says there are 15 of these. The best way to get better at these questions is just a ton of practice. Really, really, really a lot of practice so you can see all the sort of like subtle ways that you can think about a problem. And to do that as well, look at some of these are the exercise problems, but where we say like, how many ways are there to get a full house in a 5-card poker hand, right? Stuff like that. Those are really great questions as well, because it's exactly this sort of stuff. Just practice, practice, practice. It's sort of the best thing that you can do. Okay. So for those of you who have to leave, phenomenal. I'll see you on Thursday, I hope. Rafid, what do you mean? Like, are there more questions?
The questions from the poll.
Yeah, what about them?
Are the other questions that we didn't do available to us?
They will be by the end of the week, yeah.
Okay, with the correct answers, right?
Yes, yeah, I always post the solutions as well in the same place. So in the readings, right under the readings, there's a link that says polls and answers. So they're not up now, but they will be up, say, by Friday. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So how about you give me 5 minutes? Just take a little break, refill my water, stuff like that. We'll come back in 5 minutes. I'll answer any questions you have. Okay. And again, if you all want to take off, you're absolutely free to do that as well. And I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so let's see. So I have a direct message thing and I've got Curtis response question. Okay, so let's see. Something like Q1 in A5. Let me see. And Shana, I see you. Just let me do this one first. Let me just pull it up so I remember exactly what it says. Yeah, I mean, I can't do something too similar without like really giving it away. Let me think. Yeah, maybe if I give us something a little bit different, let's say, and yeah, let's do something like this, right? Okay, let's say, let's call this A, let's call this B, and let's call this C. And yeah, okay, so let's say I told you that the number of things in A was, excuse me, 100, that the number of things in A intersect B, I'm just making up numbers here, I really hope they work, was 40, something in my throat. The number of things in A intersects C is 32, and then the number of things in A intersect B intersects C is 7. I have no idea if these numbers are going to work, right? Okay, and then I said, find for me, what do I want? A intersect B minus C. Okay, how would you do it? So what I would say is, can we parse together this information, right? First of all, what are we looking for? We're looking for this thing, right? This is A intersect B minus C. Do we agree? Right, that's what that is. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out what that is. Oh no. So what do I know? So I know that A intersect B is 40, right? So I know that this thing is 40. Oh, this one isn't actually too bad the way I've done this. And then we know that this thing is 7, right? And that thing is this right here. Right, there's 7 of these. So that tells me that there must be 33 things in here, right? So there are 33 things in there. And you can see you would use this now once you know these numbers, you can continue on, right? So this is 7. Maybe, yeah, let me put it inside. This is 33. The whole thing is 40. Okay, what's this? What's that thing? So based off of the numbers that you've been given, what must that be? 25, right? Right, because you're told that A intersects C. Ooh, what is that doing here? So you're told that A intersects C is 32, but you know that their mutual intersection is 7. So this whole thing here has to add up to 32. It might be a little bit hard to see, right? But that whole wedge, exactly, it's 32 minus 7. And now how many things therefore are in this white portion? Right, so A, but without all the overlap, with A with none of its overlap. So we're told there's 100 things in there. Yeah, exactly, right? And so that number ends up being what, 45, I think? Is it 35? Okay, I'll trust you guys to do the math. 35. right? What is it? It's 33 and 32. Oh, you're right. It's 65. Yeah, it should be 35. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And you can see now you could do this for all the other things as well, right? And then you get what B is, you get what C is. And then you can answer any, like once you figured out what this is and what this is, and I haven't given enough info here to do that, but the assignment question has, once you've gotten enough information, you can figure out what all of those things are, and then you can answer pretty much any question that we give you. Right. Yeah, was the whole wedge including the center? I mean, yeah, A intersect B is, let me draw it just so that we're all clear. So A intersect B is this thing. Right? So that whole thing is 40. Oh yeah, sure. Minus the center, yeah. Yeah, but it definitely has the center in it, right? Because this is the center here is actually A intersect, right? This is actually A intersect B intersect C. It's just the center, but that includes, you know, A intersect B is in there as well. Yeah. So for part one, there's only one answer. Like, do we include all set operations? There is only one answer. Well, let me see. Using set operations, describe the set of songs that are about love, but not about trucks, and evaluate the size of the set. Right. So you then need to figure out, how do I write that, right? How do I write this thing in set notation, right? Like A intersect B or A intersect B minus C or something along those lines. And then based off of that, what number is it? Well, you can use the Venn diagram. But when you actually compute the parts of the Venn diagram, you'll want to use some algebraic stuff to back you up here. Right? One separate answer. I'm not certain what you mean by a separate answer for each set operation. Ooh, Brandon, that's an interesting question. And my instinct is yes. So the question is A minus, well, we have to put brackets, right, somewhere. So presumably this first set is here. Right? And let's figure it out, okay? So let's draw this. So again, we've got A, we've got B, we've got C. So if I do B without C, so B without C is this stuff. And then if I take A without B minus C, that gives me the blue. A without B minus C. Right, so it gives me everything except this little wedge here. And then if we do, so that's this thing. And then if we do A minus B minus C, so A minus B is, so this is A, this is B, this is C. So if we do A minus B, we get this. Right? And then if I take away C, I actually get rid of this stuff. And so you can see they're not the same, right? They are different sets. Right? The blue on the left and the yellow on the right. Those are different sets. No problem. So for assignment 4Q1, the fourth line where it gives us all of these amounts, what does it mean? Right, okay, so part of that you do need to figure out, but here, let's kind of do it. So what is A? All right, so here we have A, B, C. So A intersect B is this thing, right? I think everyone agrees. And then A intersect C is this thing. And then B intersects C, which direction have I not done yet? I guess is like this. And then if you union them together, it gives you that like sort of trillium looking thing. part 1 would be it depends on what you mean by what you've written there, Curdy. Like maybe, like you have to be more careful about the set operations and what you mean by the word and, but it's the right idea. How would the set notation for what be like? Oh, this is A intersect B union B intersect C union A intersect C. Curdy, no, I don't think that's what you want. No problem, group tap. Oh, in set builder notation. So in set builder notation, everyone, I was reviewing somebody's work the other day, or actually, I guess this afternoon, and we said, like, you know, let's say I said, write this in set builder notation, right? Let me just make sure that this is not actually a question. So from the assignment, let's say I said, write this in set builder notation, D union F. So what they said was, this is the set of all X in U such that X is in D or X is in F. And I said, yes, that's absolutely true. That is set builder notation. But that's just set builder notation for you. What I want you to do in this question is to write this out using the definition of D and F, right? And D are sets about love. F are songs about prison. So I'd say this is the set of X such that X is about love or prison, right? That's what I mean by, like, yeah, exactly. Put it into like words. And frankly, I would include both, right? Like I would include all of these things as kind of like, look, I'm unraveling what this means in terms of just turning the symbols into words and then translating what those symbols mean in the context of this question. I would include all of that as part of your work. And now you have a set builder description of what you want. And same thing when it says, like in part 2, where it says describe this set, this is what we want, you know, something like this. The set of songs that are about this, but not this, or something along those lines. Its size, we mean like compute n of it, right? Like compute how many, you know, like up here where we computed these numbers, like compute, once you know what your set is, figure out how many songs are in that set. What kind of song is about prison? Yeah, I don't know enough about country. I didn't necessarily make this. I would have said modern day country is about love, about partying, and about your dog. Those are what I think modern country songs are. But granted, I'm not a big, yeah, so I would have included that, Jack, as part of like partying though, right? Because there's a lot of like drinking country now. Like I'm kind of like, I was kind of surprised by it because my wife was listening to it. I'm like, wow, all these songs are just about getting trashed. So, but I kind of like throw that into the partying thing, right? So I don't know, my exposure, which is very limited, would be about that. Right, exactly, Brandon. We won't bring that in. You would say, Gerber Tap, like n, right? We've been using n here to denote the number of things in A. So you'd say n of that set equals whatever your number is. Yeah, getting trashed in prison, exactly, with that like toilet bowl wine or whatever. Toilet bowl vodka. Okay, somebody asked me about question 2, and I can't do much about question 2. So whoever asked me, I'm sorry, I've forgotten who you were. If you work on it a little bit and then post it in Piazza, I can kind of give more specific, detailed responses. What I'd say, though, a good thing to look at is last week we had a bunch of poll questions that were like about phone numbers and postal codes. And that's very similar to the assignment 2 question, right? It's very, very similar. We use kind of a similar notation. So if you look at those, make your best attempt and then throw something up on Piazza. I'm happy to help. As well, I did do the postal code one. What does plus mean, Curdy? What does plus mean? Right? Plus is not an operation that we've defined. And yeah, if we look at the poll questions from, or if we look at the video from last week, I can try and show you where I did the postal code question, which might help. Shana, I think that was you, right? So let me see if I can find where last week I did the postal code question. Oh, sweet. Where the heck was it? Oh, it's right at the beginning, I think. Yeah, it was the first thing that we did. So, oh, sorry, I just sent that to Kayla. All right, so this is last week's recording, and the postal code question was the first one that we did in that lecture. So you might want to check out that video, which we kind of like talk about how exactly it is that we're going to solve that problem, and solving that problem is very similar to doing this one, right? And Curdy, yeah, you got to figure out what that word means, right? And what the correct operation for that is. When it says blah, 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 does that just mean that these three? Right, well, there's no mention of an intersection, right? So if there's no mention of an intersection, then you can probably assume that there isn't one. Have I posted the poll answers with my notes? So my notes are available. Well, yeah, okay. So they're not posted, right? Because again, all 4 lecture sections post, or we all use the same poll questions, but these are available. All of these are online, right? Like I've posted these. These are online. You can all see them. Wait, didn't I? I'm pretty sure I did. Hold on. Let me try and figure out where it is. Where would it be? But yeah, I mean, also they're in the recordings, right? Yeah, I thought I posted these. I guess I didn't post the notes. But I mean, if you check the recordings, that does give you the ability to go back and figure out which question I did when, because in particular, sometimes I'm lazy and I don't mark down which question I'm doing, right? So you can see here, I didn't mark down the question. What question is this? But if you check the recording, then the recording will tell you which question we're doing when. That might be a little bit easier. Oh, you don't find the recording. So the recordings are right. Okay, see you, Danielle. Here are the recordings. So Han, if you want to check that out, that's where they are. And then you can find them all there. So that would be the right place to do that. No problem. Yeah, group time. I was like not being, I could have looked up what question that was, but yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for looking that one up. Yeah, okay. So I got a question, which is how do you do the TTTT in question 2? Let me pull that back up and see. Okay. Yeah, so you've got 4-letter permutations of TY, right? So you've got TY. I can't say too much, right? But we've got, how many letters are here? There's 6 letters and there's no repetitions, right? And you're allowed to use lowercase as well. So how many options do we actually have? Well, we have like TYRION. So that's another 6. So that gives us 12 possible total options, right? So there are 12 options. And then are there any other rules? The letters can be lowercase or uppercase, but are not allowed to repeat, right? So you have no repetition. Yes, Curdy. Yes, I would say that's it. Yes, Brandon. Yeah, same answer. Yeah. And so person who direct messaged me, what you want now is to say, I've got these like 4 spots to fill. I've got 12 letters to choose from. I don't have any repetition. That's exactly Gerber tap. Yep, perfect. And so that is a problem that we've done, right? I think that's one that's in the notes. Owen, yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure, you can use permutations for this. Yeah. Is it not possible for you to post the polls without the answers? We can take notes with it during lecture. I'm not quite certain what you mean, direct messenger. Can you elaborate on that? So you want me to post it with the answer or without the answer, or because they're both posted at the end of the week? I mean, when are you interested in me posting them? I'm just a little bit confused. Oh, you want them posted ahead of time. Right. Right. This is a good question. The answer to that question, in this case, though, is no, because we do want the first time that you've seen these questions to be in class. So the learning model that I'm implementing is actually part of that. Like, I want it to be the first time you've seen them. So I understand that that is something that you might want. What you could do is you could try and snap a screenshot. I mean, they'll be posted at the end of the week eventually, which I know might not be the best if you're trying to throw things in notes and stuff. But if you want, just for note-taking purposes, you can definitely like snap screenshots and stuff and then try and keep it with you and then embed it into your notes in some way that way. But yeah, we deliberately don't post them ahead of time just because we want in class to be the first time you've seen it. And I know that that might not sound like it makes a difference, but it is part of the learning model and it is an important part. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, cool. Sorry, there are a couple direct messages. Let me go back and see for why. So direct messenger for why, yes, that's the right idea, but the math there isn't correct. There is an issue. For Z, do we have to prove, I'm gonna just say this one out loud because I don't think there's a spoiler here. So for Z, do I have to prove that Z can only be 0, 1, or 2? Or can you just say that? You can just say that. Yeah, the remainder has to be either 0, 1, or 2. Yes, assignment 5 has a question 1 where the set has an exponent of C. C means complement. So C means to take everything in U that isn't in the set, right? So like in part 2, D union E union F complement means take everything that isn't in D union E union F. Okay, does that make sense? Direct messenger? Right, so in a Venn diagram, it looks like this. So you've got your universe and you've got A. So A complement is this stuff. It's everything that's not in A. Okay. Let me know if that doesn't make sense for you. I'm going to try to answer another direct message while I'm here. For Q1, do you have to do 2 different, oh, for part 1 of Q2. Okay. Right. Okay, good. Sounds good. No problem. So part 1 of Q2. You could do that, Owen. I'm not certain it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary, but if you wanted to do it, I'm not quite certain where your numbers come from. So you're going to have to elaborate a little bit more on where those numbers are. Keep in mind the first number must be odd. right? Which is going to significantly change what can happen. Yeah, or I guess maybe just explain to me what your the second part is there when you did. Right, that's true. But so you've got blah plus blah. What's that second one? Because you're not allowed to pick. Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, but then why is your first one 5? Because you're doing it in 2 cases, right? So I don't think you don't want this. Right, but you're doing a separate case. One of those numbers is not in that case. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, perfect. No problem. Okay, I don't understand why it's not blah, because if blah. Okay, wait, let me think a little bit more. Maybe it's just the way that you wrote it down, which is not okay. So which one is this again? This is y. Right. So no consecutive sequence of ones is permitted. Does that end up being the same answer? Maybe it is. Let me think. Because if the middle number is blah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So you took out the case where all 3 are 1, right? And now you're saying, oh, I see what you're doing. You're saying if you force that one to not be a 1, then that takes care of everything, right? Like the first one has 10 hours. Okay, but does that mean that 919 is not allowed? Because you said the second digit can't be a 1, right? But then 919 is not a valid, like you didn't count 919. Right, so you have to do it as you'd have to do a second case where that middle digit is 1, but neither of the other 2 numbers is allowed to be a 1. Does that make sense? So you could do it this way, but you have to have a second case. Because it's not, you're right, if that middle number is not a 1, then all the configurations are fine. But there are configurations where the middle number is allowed to be a 1. Right, so you've undercounted. You missed some valid configurations. Okay. Which is just to say, as a second case, suppose the middle number is 1, right? Now, that means that neither of the other 2 numbers can be a 1. And so that's a second case, and then you would add your 2 answers. Okay. And sorry, Gupertat, let me read yours because I've missed it and I was answering that one. Strictly take everything except for Gupertat, I'm a little bit confused by what you're saying. There's I want you to elaborate on it a little bit more. So it has to occur after M in the English alphabet, right? So there are lots of letters before M that you're not allowed to take, right? Like you can't use K, for example, right? Because K occurs before M. So you're not allowed to use K. Okay, so Kurdi, and I'm just gonna kind of elaborate on what you said because, you know, I got to show people and they're going to be confused what I'm saying. So hopefully you don't mind. So for y, we have 3 boxes, right? And right now, the kind of suggestion is, well, let's look at, without me writing out any numbers, let's say this number cannot be 1. Right? And you can count the number of valid cases here. So this, for example, might include 175, right? Would be included in this case. Because as long as the middle number is not a 1, it's included in this case, right? So you get some sort of number for this. So you compute some number of cases. Okay, so we've missed some valid configurations though, right? Namely, we've missed all the configurations where the middle number is allowed to be a 1. And we know that there are some valid configurations, right? Like 918 is a valid configuration that is not counted here. And so we have to count it here. So if you do it this way, what you're going to do is you're going to do 2 cases. Now here, though, if you assume that the middle number is 1, then that means that this cannot be 1. And this also cannot be 1. Right? Because otherwise you'd have 2 consecutive 1s or potentially 3 consecutive 1s. So this is a separate case. Count these number of cases and then add these 2 up. Does that make sense? Right? So first case, you're not allowed to have a 1 in the middle. Second case, you are allowed to have a 1 in the middle. You compute the number of options for both of those separately and you add them. So when I add them, right, yeah. Yeah, because those are just the options for y, but you still have to multiply by everything else, right? Brandon, I'm looking at yours right now. Yes. But there's one more, I think. Or you have to be careful. No, I think your number is right, but one of those cases includes the triple one, and you want to be clear about which one it is because you haven't exclusively said it, but you've included it in the first case and not in the second. Does that make sense? Because why? Because it could also show up in the second case, but you're specifically saying don't count it. So when you do that explanation, you have to be really careful. I would maybe even include it as a third case, but that's up to you. Right? Or count it in both cases and say, I counted it twice. So we're going to add it back, add one back in. Those are all valid ways of explaining it. Just do it like that. Right, exactly. And I think that's probably the clearest way of saying it, Brandon. I think that's the best way. Okay, yeah. So Curdy, what I would say is you want to break it into two cases, okay? And Gerbertab, I see yours, I'm going to come to it. So case 1, the middle number is a 1, right? Case 2, the middle number is any number that isn't 1, right? And these are the only two options. Either the middle number is a 1 or it isn't. So if you count these two cases, you've got all of them. So count these cases and then add them. Oh, did I miss that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was up much earlier. Sorry, Curdy. Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah. Okay. You're good, right? You're good. I don't need to do or say anything. Yeah. Okay. E is blah, F is blah. But I basically have to find all the values. Do we include, okay, hold on. So Gerbertab, which one are you looking at again? 2? Part 2 of question 1? What I think you should do. Okay, so first of all, I'm a little concerned by what you mean by your D value, because I don't think that's what you mean, because the question even says the number of things in D is 47. So I think you mean something slightly different when you say, this is what you got for D and E and F, right? You mean something different there. Because you're told that D is 47, E is 46, and F is 52, right? What I would do though is like maybe draw a Venn diagram of what D union E union F is, and take its complement and use that in order, combined with your Venn diagram in order to figure out what the answer should be. Do you know what I'm saying? Or even just write it in words and think. So the complement says take not, right? It's to do not it, right? So I think this is the important part here. So it's the set. Yeah, let me write it in set builder. It's a set of element X such that X is not in A. Okay. So the complement says take everything that's not in A, right? It's like do the opposite of this. Curdy, it says, let me just double check. It says after M, not, so that means strictly after. So you don't include M. Would you consider Y to be a vowel or a consonant? Y is a consonant for our cases, yeah. Gerber Tap, are you okay? Does that, I just want to make sure that I haven't left you hanging here. Okay. Yeah, the power of C means complement. So, yeah, let's maybe do an example that's not in the context of the assignment. So what if I said, let's let S be the students in this class, or let's say in the Zoom meeting. And I'm going to let, O for old be the students older than, or let's say not students, but just people in the Zoom meeting, right? Because I'm not a student, but I'm in the Zoom meeting. So O is going to stand for old. So these are the people who are older than 30. Okay. Out of curiosity, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Is there anyone else here who's older than 30, or is it just me? Okay, I think it's just me. Okay, so O complement is then the people who are not, yeah, no, that's okay. Oh, okay. You direct messaged me though, so I'm going to assume that you don't want me to put it in. So I'm not going to put it in. I'm not going to include it unless you tell me otherwise. So the complement then is the people who are not. Oh, okay. Not older. We definitely have older students all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I just want to be clear here, everyone. We do have students older all the time. A lot of them are very self-conscious about coming back and being older. And one of the things that I always have to tell them is like, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, being an older student often makes you a better student because, and that's nothing against the rest of you, but usually older students are, they're a little bit more, yeah, they're a little bit more certain about what it is that they want to study. They're often really use class resources a lot better. They come to a lot of office hours. So it is something that those older students are self-conscious about. And I just want to make sure, that we're not putting any of them down because they're already often feeling a little bit worried about being older than everyone else. So, if you are one of those people, don't worry about it at all. It's totally cool. And like I said, in my experience, they're often usually some of the best students, right? So when I take the complement of O, these are the people who are not older than 30, right? So I'm taking all the people in this class who are not older than 30, and that's literally everyone who's not me. Does that make sense? So the complement is everything that's not in O. And so that would be everybody else. Right? And then we can do stuff like, let's let B again. So this will be like the people with blonde hair. Okay, so now I could do B union O. Okay, so these are the people who are blonde or over 30. Okay, and who wants to volunteer for this? So I am in this set. I am not blonde, but I am over 30.